We got some trouble in Trump world, y'all. Trouble in Trump world. So this is in the Daily Beast. Trump's fundraising PACs lose $13 million in 3 months. After the Mar-a-Lago raid, Trump's mouthpieces suggested there was a fundraising boom for Trump. Turns out he's been losing money. Interesting. So here's what they say. Former President Donald Trump's political committees raised about $24 million in the last 3 months, an eye-popping sum to be sure, but an analysis of his filings shows that the embattled ex-president also spent more than $37 million over the same period, coming out with a net loss of around $13 million. In real terms, Trump's fundraising last quarter was actually something closer to $3.6 million. That's how much he actually raised for his two main committees, which he can use for things like political activity, events, legal fees, and enriching his businesses. But while those two committees took in about $3.6 million, they also spent roughly $15.5 million on operating costs. Those losses didn't stop Trump's allies from boasting to the media that the ongoing federal investigation into his hoarding of government records was playing out as a political and financial win, claiming the legal boondoggle had only energized his MAGA base. In truth, they weren't telling the whole story. The twice-impeached former president had been hemorrhaging cash all along, while apparently struggling to convert small-dollar donors. He used to be good at getting those small-dollar donors. That's changing. A Trump spokesperson didn't respond to a request for comment. This analysis is based on recent Federal Election Commission filings from Trump's 3 active fundraising committees. Over the last 3 months, those groups spent a combined $23 million on services associated with raising money. Accounting for just those expenses, Trump walked away with a little over $1 million, but his other costs took a major bite. Legal fees alone ate up $7.5 million, leaving him $13 million in the hole, all told. So, look, I want to be clear about something here. This doesn't mean Trump or his potential campaign, or his PACs. It doesn't mean that they're bankrupt, or that, he's totally screwed. In fact, quite the contrary. They go on in this article later on to explain how he still has almost $100 million cash on hand. But here's the reality about that fact. A lot of this stuff was literally just because he swindled his own followers. Do you guys remember in the wake of him losing the election and Stop the Steal becoming this big movement? He was fundraising off that, and he was telling his own small dollar donors, hey man, donate to me. I'm going to stop the steal. We're going to fight this thing. We're going to win this thing. But, you have to step up and be a good patriot and donate. And so people did donate to the tune of $250 million his people gave. It's an incredible sum of money. But if you read the fine print when he was fundraising, what you learn very quickly is he's not actually going to use this stuff for stopping the steal. In fact, that wasn't used for stopping the steal. So a lot of those funds, almost 100 million of it, it's like 92 or 94 million of it, that's still sitting there. Okay, so he has cash on hand, right? But the point that they're making in this Daily Beast article is the claim of, hey, since the countless investigations into him and the lawsuits and all the legal trouble that he's in, Trump and his team claimed, oh, that's helping us fundraise more. That is factually inaccurate. That's just wrong. It's not true. There wasn't some massive bump in fundraising. Now, what's wild about that is when they told that lie, it was totally plausible. I believed it, right? Because this is usually how it works. We saw it just happen with Herschel Walker in Georgia, where the whole story about him paying for abortions popped up, and he did see a fundraising bump. Now, he also did see at the same time, though, a polling drop, but the hardcore base was like, oh, I support him even more now because he's triggering the libs, let me send him money. So you would think, oh, the same thing would happen with Trump. But what happened? Look, guys, I don't think there's any other way to read this. We've reached our tipping point here with Trump. And I've been telling you this all along. There is no scenario in which a federal investigation into you is a political win. Just ask Hillary Clinton about that. Because America's a wild country in many respects, but in some ways we have normie instincts. And most Americans are going to think, hey, where there's smoke, there's fire. And there's not only one investigation into Trump, there's like 7 investigations into Trump. And some of them have had some real movement on it. In New York, the civil case against his businesses being fined for $250 million for tax fraud and insurance fraud and business fraud, and all these details are out there for everybody to see, right? We're witnessing a situation now where in my estimation, even Trump fans, even Trump supporters, even Trump voters, his own base, who had even donated to him in the past, they're pumping the brakes a little bit, or most of them are, and they're saying, look, even though I love him, I'm not going to light this fucking money on fire by donating it to Trump. I'm just not going to do it. Because he's in trouble. And now you got, Diet Trump in Ron DeSantis, who's on the rise and saying all the right things and doing all the right things to cater to that right-wing base. And, why would you want to roll the dice on a guy with this much dirt on him and this much toxicity? There's plenty of Republican voters and Trump voters who say, look, I like the guy, I even love the guy, but we can't win with him in a general. So I think that's where we are. And now his PACs are losing money. He's spending more than he's taking in. He's not raising nearly as much as they said they were raising. Don't get it twisted, he's still a formidable force. He's still the de facto leader of the Republican Party. But it's not because he has a majority support, it's because he has plurality support. But that hardcore base has dwindled more and more and more. And now we're at a point where the money's drying up. The small dollar base is drying up. See, Trump always lied and said, I can fund my own campaign. I'm not taking money from these donors. That wasn't true. He absolutely was taking money from big donors. But he also did build a very effective small dollar base as well. But now the small dollars are drying up. And this is on top of, we already know that the big donors are fleeing. We covered that story. A lot of the big Republican donors are like, hey man, too much, too toxic, can't win with them, got to get past them. So if the big donors are fleeing and the small donors are fleeing, what are we left with? Here, I'll answer that for you. A cult. Whatever percentage is left that is donating and is still like, I'll vote for him no matter what, bro. It's a cult. It's a cult. And a cult is useful for Trump in some ways, but it ain't enough to get him back in the fucking White House. That's for sure. And so, again, I bring this story to you because I need you to understand that the narrative of Teflon Don is not forever and ever and ever. That's not the way this works. Politics is not stagnant. It's fluid. Things are constantly changing and evolving. And what was, not possible one day becomes very possible the next day. And what seemed like political conventional wisdom one day becomes the opposite the next day. And now we are hitting the tipping point with Donald Trump. And I think that this is likely to continue because normally it should have been the case he got a giant fundraising bump from the investigations. And maybe very initially he did. But that has certainly tapered off. And now he's losing money. And the chickens may be coming home to roost. But we'll see if the Republican establishment can get their shit enough together to defeat him in 2024. You would need like one or two of these investigations or three of them or whatever to come through. It might need to fucking get found guilty, maybe get jail time, or maybe get jail time that's stayed contingent upon him not running, some shit, right? And you'd have to clear the field and have one person up against him, and that person, of course, would have to be DeSantis. But anyway, he's in trouble. I don't think that's... It is a controversial take because the Teflon Don narrative has taken hold everywhere in media, but I don't agree with it. I just simply don't agree with it. He's still the favorite for 2024, but it is not an insurmountable challenge at all. I guarantee you that. Ever since Adpocalypse, when YouTube defunded all independent news and politics overnight, we haven't trusted them. We know they can pull the rug out from underneath us at any time. If you enjoy this content, please consider tipping $1 or $2 per month on the Secular Talk Patreon. Link in the video description box below. Thanks for your support.